really good at Magic, but he doesn't care about any of the accolades or any of that stuff. I go to the tournament because I want to win and I want to leave.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a very business-like approach.
I love it. And I love watching him play. Guy can really play some Magic. I mean, if he wasn't a fan of the Patriots, I'd love him to death. But not everybody can be perfect.
What do you got against the Patriots? Brady, Belichick?
What's the
best combination?
What's the like? You like the Patriots? That's because
I
you guys
love
always
the
beat them.
Patriots. Yeah, I'm a Giants fan, but I get a lot of grief for living in New Jersey and liking the Patriots. Trust me.
I mean, deserved.
Well, I agree.
Playing against Jeff Darran. Jeff is playing Jun Monsters. We have two of these at 5-0. We saw one move on to 5-0, and we got this one.
Is basically the exact same situation. No, even worse, there are no M15 cards whatsoever. I mean, whereas the last time we saw the player had cut one Scavenging Ooze for the Hydra, the Genesis Hydra, this is basically CVM's exact list from, a month or two ago.
Well, it's been good then.
It's been good then, yeah. No reason to change it.
It's clearly good today. We know that.
As far as I know, Stormbreath Dragon's still really good at winning games on its own.
You love Stormbreath Dragon.
I love it. It's so good.
Here's a thought, C's. Over on Tomb, Blood Crypt, 2 copies of Elvish Mystic. Stormbreath Dragon, 2 copies of Pulachronos.
All right. So a lot of redundancy there. So that's pretty good against the Thoughtseize. Obviously, Stormbreath Dragon probably the best card to take there, unless Dave has a removal spell and he might just take a Mystic and then kill the other Mystic.
Shiels going to record the contents of the grip before moving forward. Also going to take a look at his hand.
Yeah,
decide what the snag.
Because there's only 2 lands there, if I had a removal spell, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a Mystic and then kills the second Mystic.
Leaves him stranded with those
cards.
cards.
Tries to leave him stranded a little bit. Short of that, though, Stormbreath Dragon's probably the card you take. Let's see what he decides to do.
I mean, whatever card he takes is going to be very telling, right? If he takes Mystic, that means the other Mystic's going to die.
Yeah,
wow,
so
maybe not.
Looks like he's going to take Pulachronos there.
A larger plan at work, perhaps. Darran going to play over on 2 untapped. Go down 18 and deploy an Elvish Mystic.
Yeah, and Darran got a really good draw there in Domri, and I believe he's going to be able to cast it on turn 2, short of anything crazy on Dave's side.
See, Shiels does have 1 new card in his hand, and Urborg.
Oh, and a Sign of Blood as well.
Okay, fair enough. Brad Nelson's arguably favorite card from the set. Shiels going to go down to 16 and draw 2. It really does show the difference between what 2 and 3 mana is, because, a card like Read the Bones is not seeing a lot of play because 3 mana is something that this black-white mid-range and those mono-black devotion decks, they have a lot of spells in that spot in the curve.
Yeah.
Shields' deck, actually, he has 3 Sign and Bloods and only 1 Underworld connections. Typically, you see a deck like Black-White or Black Devotion, they have oftentimes 4 Underworld connections. Only 1 here.
Yeah, so really just going for more value in his spells. Sign and Blood kind of serving a role of card drawing a little bit there.
Domri did a tick up, and then Shields will untap here in just a moment.
Underworld connection is not that great against, Mono Blue Devotion and some of the aggressive decks. So maybe that's a concession game 1 after board. He boards into more cards.
Yeah.
So Darren's had a pretty good draw. He played the Domri, and then he was able to hit a Corsair Crewfix as well. So pretty good turn there. Let's see what Dave wants to do. Dave still doesn't have anything in play. He has a bunch of removal spells. Looks like he has a Desecration Demon as well, but really nothing in play to kind of pressure Darran right now.
See, Shields is taking a look at the list of cards that he knows that Jeff does have in his hand. So he wants to move forward. Again, it's a methodical pace with Dave. We've watched him play quite a bit, especially when he was winning that Legacy Open when we were in Providence with Death and Taxes.
Yeah, methodical, but very good.
Yeah.
Always generally makes the right decision. So Hero's Downfall takes out Domri. And I think Jeff is okay with that. He misses a land drop, but he does have that Corsair, so he can try to find the land here.
Let's see what the top card is. It's an Elvish Mystic. That's not a land.
And that's actually a pretty tough spot for him as well, because if he tries to go Mystic next turn to try to generate his mana, I believe Dave does have a Bile Blight in his hand.
Dave's playing 4 of that card.
Oh.
That's a lot of those.
That's a lot.
Let's see what the top card is. Overgrown Tomb. All right, so he found a land.
So that's probably going to make him make a different decision here, and maybe just lead with the Pulachronos.
I wouldn't be surprised if we still end up seeing Mystic this turn. I don't
Well,
think
he's got a Carroted as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we might see Carroted Mystic. We'll see. Just dropping a Pelicanos against a black deck is probably not the best when they have a Desecration Demon to play because it's probably not living.
Yeah.
So you
So
probably
easy
need
for 'em to
something
kill.
else. Yeah. But again, this deck doesn't have that many answers to a Desecration Demon, so.
Well, there's the World Eater, so that's going to come right into play. Yeah, and this exact build doesn't have a lot of answers to Desecration Demon either. There are 2 copies of Dreadbore, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing else.
Sam, card D, if you are in the room, please report to the
So
main
let's see
event
here.
stage.
I think Dave might even have a second copy of Desecration Demon in his hand, so really good situation for Dave. Let's see what he decides to do. I wouldn't be surprised if he just declares his attackers first and put the demon trigger on the stack.
Mutavaults oftentimes, they don't tap for black mana. It actually makes things a little bit interesting now.
That's one of the reasons I thought Mono Black would be even more popular and better now, just because Urborg, Urborg makes it so that you can get those Mutavault draws where you can still cast Night Veil Specters.
Here's some mana. Another demon.
Wow, so
We've seen games like this before.
Yeah, it's like good old-fashioned 6/6 flyers.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat them.
But Osabu can control them. They can be
Technically,
controlled.
yes. And this is a situation where if Darran tries to actually play Mystic to kind of hold down the demons,
Gets destroyed.
he gets destroyed, yeah.
This is the one card that has always been a pain for the green red monsters deck, and even Jund monsters. The splash originally was to be able to have answers to Desecration Demon, be it Putrefy, be it Dreadbore, what have you. But there's no guarantee you'll draw those cards.
Yep.
Carry added. There's a Mystic. Here comes the other Mystic. This is when the Bioblight looks absolutely great. You see Darran has moved down to 9 to deploy all those things. No good attacks, of course, because there's Desecration Demon back on defense.
Yeah, Darren's going to have to tap down at least one of these demons, and there's a good chance he's not going to have his Mystics. And Dave doesn't have any access to white mana, so his options are kind of limited right now.
Blights. A little 3-for-1. So away they go. He's going to have to tap one of these down, as you did mention. I even see a Mutavault get fired up here. Yeah, triggers are going to get placed on the stack.
Yeah, fortunately for Jeff, Dave doesn't have any white mana. He's got a lot of white spells in it. It looks like he has an Obsidian, an Elspeth, and a Deicide.
Yeah, Deicide's the other card.
Yeah, so it looks like Courser's going to get sacked there. He doesn't want to lose his mana. But again, how do you deal with these? Eventually, these demons are going to eat you alive. You're going to fall to 3 here, it looks like.
Problem is you don't get to deal with them.
Yeah, you just can't deal with them.
Yeah. It's actually pretty telling that Shiels is able to win this game. It looks like he'll be able to win this game with no white mana.
Yeah, demon and removal. Double demon, removal spells, all you really need.
Yep.
Especially when your opponent doesn't really come out very quickly out of the gates.
You can see for Jeff, too, one of the cards in his hand, he's actually picked up 2 copies of Abrupt Decay,
Yeah.
which are blank magic cards.
Pretty bad in this matchup.
Dave Shiels going to win game number 1 here over Jeff Darran. Black-white mid-range up a game over Jund Monsters, as these players are duking it out at 5-0. They're going to go to the sideboards, and so are we. We will take a look at Jeff's first, which you do have in front of you.
So after sideboard, he's got 3 copies of Mistcutter Hydra. Not very good in this matchup. 3 copies of Nelia's Disciple. I could see bringing those in if he thought that you were going to be in a racing situation. But again, with the amount of removal Dave has after sideboard, it's unlikely that's going to be the case. Really, you just want answers to Desecration Demon. You want the 2 Putrefys you have in your sideboard. You also want 1 copy of Vraska. So I like bringing in those 3 cards. I also like bringing in 2 copies of Rakdos Return. Dave is playing mid-range, so Rakdos Return is obviously very good against mid-range decks. It's also a way for you to kind of like X damage an Elspeth potentially if Dave is able to get one to resolve. However, Jeff hasn't actually seen the white side of Dave's deck, so he might not know that he's black-white mid-range, not just mono-black. So, but we'll see how that one goes. But I definitely like the Vraska, the Putrefys, and then 2 copies of Rakdos Return. That's like 5 cards. Obviously, Abrupt Decay is probably coming out. Mizium Mortar is not very good either, so that's 3 cards. And then for the last 2 cards, really not that much that you want to be boarding out. I mean, maybe you want to cut like a Pelicanos, maybe a Rampager here or there. Can't really afford to cut your mana ramp, I don't think, in this particular matchup. But definitely has some options for him after sideboard.
Shiels is taking a look at 2 copies of Blood Baron of Scopa, 2 Duress, 3 copies of Sin Collector, 3 Doomblade, an additional copy of Deicide, a Pithing Needle, 200 Royal Connections, and then a Whip of Erebos. Well, Doomblade's easy. That's going to come in. Sin Collector, we talked about this actually previously. Not the best in this particular matchup. It's fine, but there are a lot of Planeswalkers on that side of the table, so probably won't see those come in. Pithing Needle, actually, I like a lot here, mainly to shut down Xenagos, which does a nice job of controlling things.
Yeah, there's a lot of planeswalkers that you have to deal with. Not having to use your Hero's Downfall on one is huge, so I definitely agree.
Duress is the card I actually do like in this matchup. Again, the spells, Domri, Xenagos. There'll be some spot removal spells kind of hanging out as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see Dave side in maybe one or both Duresses that are in his sideboard. And outside of that, I don't really think too many other great options. So, 3 with the Doomblades, 4 and 5 with Duress, like 6 with the Needle. Some combination of those cards will likely come in here. 4 Shiels. So he's already shuffling up, and he's happy and ready to go with this configuration. Jeff giving a little bit more consideration before we get ready for game number 2.
Yeah, and Jeff's in a tough spot here because you're probably 50-50 against this deck at best. And if you're down a game already, you can't love your chances to win 2 in a row. But again, he definitely has the cards that can do it. I mean, Domri and Xenagos can be very good in this matchup. The problem is that he still relies on attacking Dave with a creature. Like, he's really not a Planeswalker deck. Because, like, Domri, it's not like it's going to get you that much of an advantage, especially because you're going to have more spells in your deck after sideboard. So you're not going to get like that much card advantage off it. Obviously, if it goes ultimate, it's huge, but it's hard to go ultimate against a deck like Dave. Dave has Thoughtseize still and all these Doomblade type effects. So when you're just trying to win with a fatty like Stormbreath Dragon or Polychronos, it's kind of hard to deal with black-white mid-range. So we'll see. It really comes down to whether or not he can get Planeswalkers activated enough times to sort of really generate a kind of advantage, or if Dave stumbles on mana.
The big breakout deck of this tournament so far has been Mono Green Devotion in the hands of Todd Anderson and Chad Castell, also having a nice tournament this weekend with the deck as well. Both those players, I believe, are still sitting at X and 1 right now, but you can definitely see that that is the deck that has actually been affected the most from N15 up until this point. It is, of course, only our first weekend with the cards.
Yeah, first weekend with the cards. I mean, we know that Brad Nelson played Sign of Blood. He went 0-2 drop. However, Dave is now sitting at 5-0, and he's got 3 copies in his deck. So is Sign of Blood really a card that kind of helps Mono Black even more solidify its dominance as a Tier 1 deck? So that's something that we haven't really seen that much today. This is basically the first time I think we've seen a Sign of Blood deck.
I will say, even though Brad did not have a good tournament, you don't get to win them all, obviously. I still think that his rationale and his thinking is sound about why Sign of Blood is a very, very good card for the Mono Black and just Black Devotion decks.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And obviously, in this game, it looked great because it drew Dave a Hero's Downfall and I believe a Doomblade. So it's like, oh, wow, Sign of Blood is really good.
And it gave him something to do.
It gives him something to do on turn 2.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
Dave, of course, Dave does have 4 pack wrath and spot removal, but Brad's larger point was you're for Mono Black, you're not supposed to be able to start playing 2 spells per turn until turn 6, because a lot of the spells cost 3 mana in the deck. And oftentimes what we see is not even you can call it 2 spells per turn on turn 5 where they play pack rat with 3 mana open, but that's only when the fun begins. Very rarely do you see them play 2 spells on turn 4, but with Sign of Blood they can actually do that by casting Sign of Blood and removal spell on the same turn.
Yeah.
And that's, when Mono Blacks are able to start playing multiple spells in a turn, it's very hard to beat them.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you just can't afford to get your connections going right away. Like, realistically, turn 3, you waste a turn casting connections, and then you're drawing a card on turn 4. Sign of Blood, you're just doing everything at a much faster pace, You're not so concerned about grinding it anymore as you are just about, like, velocity and seeing as much of your deck as possible and just getting to your powerful spells.
It makes for a pretty scary card. It does have a little bit of tension in the deck, though. Are people going to cut Underworld Connections for the card? Connections has been a card that it's really interesting. Like, it's a card that seems very at home in Mono Black Devotion or the Black Devotion decks, but it's a card that people who play those decks they don't really like very much. It's kind of weird, and you have to play it on turn 3 and do nothing, or on turn 4 and leave your land up and takes up your entire 4th turn. But it does help towards Grey Merchant games, where Sign of Blood will never do that.
Well, it's also the most important card in the mirror.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the kind of difficulty I had with Brad's article, where it's like, you're basically saying that Mono Black is the best deck in the format, and yet you want me to cut a Connections, which is arguably the best card in the mirror. It's like, it's really hard for me to kind of reconcile that. You're basically making concessions for other decks in the format, because obviously Sign in Blood is probably better against even a mono red deck than Connections would be. However, again, it's hard for me to justify that when mono black, you're basically saying mono black's the most powerful deck.
Thoughtsy's going to fire away here. You saw turn one Elvish Mystic there from Jeff. Here's a Doomblade, a couple copies of Storm Breath Dragon. Another card there. We'll see what Dave does want to take, and he is going to go with the Dragon.
It looks like just a land.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the problem with the Monsters deck, is that it's always had a hard time against Thoughtseize Doomblade type decks. You know, you're basically all in on one creature, really.
There's an Overgrown. Yeah, Overgrown Tomb is going to come and play on tap, be able to cast a Doomblade. You might be wondering why Doomblade's still in the deck. Does seem a little bit surprising, but killing Mutavault is actually pretty important.
So let's see here. Oh, Dave does have plenty of lands. It looks like he's got a Temple as well. And he also has a Duress, which he could use now to take out the Doomblade. But again, he's probably not that concerned with Doomblade. Maybe he wants to wait a turn to see if Jeff draws a Planeswalker. But again, if Jeff draws a Planeswalker, he's going to be able to cast it.
Yeah.
So maybe he just wants to wait a couple turns to take out like a Putrefy or a Dreadbore or something like that.
The other thing, too, is with Duress, yeah, he can, as you mentioned, he can just wait a little while, or especially because he knows the opponent does have a Doomblade, he can just play around Doomblade accordingly.
Yeah, like I actually don't think there's anything like he cares about with Doomblade. You know what I mean? I mean, he doesn't have a Mutavault right now, and I don't think there's a non-black creature in his deck.
And Jeff can draw a card here. Pulachronos comes rolling off the top. That'll give him something to do for the third turn of the game. We'll have to pay 2 life to do so, but I think he's happy with that exchange.
Yeah, so he gets a threat. He still has that Stormbreath Dragon in his hand, so if Dave doesn't have 2 removal spells, maybe he can actually kind of ride one of these creatures to victory.
We have a new card alert. Caves of Koilos.
Caves of Koilos.
It is back, and it is brand new.
It's funny how the lands, the simple things, are always just the most important.
Been that way for a while now in Magic.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of looks for the big splashy effects, but you can't cast any of those big splashy effects if you don't have the mana to do so.
Well, that's another reason why Sign in Blood's so good. Allows him to keep making his land drops on turn. Yeah, like, so Sign in Blood on turn 3 when you don't have a 4th land seems amazing.
Yeah,
Because you can draw a 4th land and then cast a removal spell too.
Dave looking at a Doomblade in his hand, again staring at that Duress as well. A couple copies of Desecration Demon hanging out. Shields just going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, because Shields knows about the Stormbreath Dragon, so he's got to figure, all right, well, am I going to be facing Pulachronos and Stormbreath Dragon potentially next turn? He knows Jeff has a Stormbreath Dragon and a Doomblade in his hand. Ooh, an Rakdos return from Jeff.
There's your Doomblade. That's going to clear that right up. See if Jeff's going to fire off that return or not. I mean, it's just a baby return for 2. It's not all that exciting, but he doesn't have anything else. I don't think anything else better to do. Yeah, so he's going to fire that off.
Can't afford to lose that to Duress too, or Thoughtseize. Because if Shields top decks a Thoughtseize, you know he's going to cast it because you know about your dragon. So
Shields will take 2 and discard 2 cards here. It's like a bad Blightning.
bad Blightning, but takes care of Obsidian. That's pretty good.
I wouldn't be feeling great if I was Jeff. If he's discarding Obsidian, his hand's probably pretty good. Here's a Sign in Blood. This is what you mentioned. He's stuck on 3 lands. He can Sign in Blood here, pay 2 life, draw 2 cards, can maybe find the 4th land, which he did, and a Temple too.
Perfect. He has 2 demons and an Elspeth in his hand, so great draw there from Dave. It looks like he should be able to, he should set himself up to get mana all the way up to 6 now, potentially.
Gonna play Temple here. The one thing I think of your Shields is you just want to find a removal spell probably for this turn. You know, with this Temple, depending. I mean, Jeff didn't play a land. Shields knows the 2 cards in his hand, too.
Yeah, he knows Doomblade and Stormbreath, but he still has that Desecration Demon.
Yeah.
And that can block Stormbreath.
Like I said, that blocks the road well enough.
So I don't think he's that concerned about finding a removal spell as much as he wants to just, if he can get the 6 mana and get Elspeth to play, that can kill the Stormbreath as well. So obviously he would love to have a Doomblade on top of his deck, but I think he's still okay for now.
Mutavault was the land that was drawn there for Jeff. He's going to attack with the Dragon. Shields is going to go down to 9.
Oh, wow. So this can be huge here. If Shields falls to 9, next turn Jeff can actually sack his Mystic to tap the Desecration Demon and then attack with Mutavault and Dragon.
Yeah, put him down to 3.
3. So another top deck creature. And then he'll be able to tap a desecration demon again.
Didn't get a great look at the card that Jeff drew. It looks like it may have been a land, and it's going to be a Temple of Abandon. So top card is what he's going to look at.
Yeah, so if he can drop Dave to 3, he has outs to like Rakdos Return can deal 3 damage. Gore Clan Rampager might be able to pump through.
That card's going to go to the bottom. So Darran didn't like what he saw. Yeah. He's going to activate a Mutavault here. Looks like he's going to sacrifice the Mystic probably to the Demon. This is what you thought was going to happen. That's exactly what will happen. It's an attack here for 6. Shields going to go down to 3.
Now, can Shields get an Elspeth into play? Although, Elspeth can kill both the Demon and the Stormbird Dragon, although then he'll fall to 1 because of the Mutavault. But that might be the best option for him. I'm not sure.
Well, he has a land. That was
Downfall.
a big draw.
Can he cast? No, he doesn't have enough for Hero's Downfall plus another Demon. But either way, though, I like just casting Hero's Downfall on the Dragon. If you play a second Demon, hoping to try to double block, and then if Jeff draws another creature, he can sacrifice Mutavault and the creature he just drew to tap both the Demons.
Let me give you a hypothetical here. Shields trigger, Desecration Demon trigger on the stack. Okay, no sacrifice. Attack you for 7. You know, if Jeff draws a Stormbird Dragon, I lose. You know, because I'm attacking you for 7, and you know all I have is a Hero's Downfall. So I mean, how aggressive do you want to play it? Looks like he doesn't want to play it as aggressive as like I'm mentioning right now, because he could basically say, all right, I'm going to Hero's Downfall your guy, and then put you in the squeeze.
Yeah,
now.
put you in a 2-turn clock.
Yeah.
Basically.
And now you're, instead of using your, you know, the Sacrifice and Desecration Demon offensively, using him defensively. Now this ends up, it looks like working out pretty well for Shields, because that's going to bite the dust. This is going to be attacked. There's Hero's Downfall. So maybe this is just a better line overall. Instead of getting aggressive, he can play defensively in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically going to blow him out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right? Because Jeff has to make that attack no matter what.
Yeah, I guess if Demon stays back and a top deck Stormbird Dragon happens, Shields doesn't lose to that. Because
that's correct, because
yeah.
he doesn't have enough mana to activate Mutavault.
Yeah. There's some backup Demon. Just got to draw a Rakdos Return right now.
Yeah, that's basically it.
See what he finds. That's a Stomping Ground. He's going to show the Doomblade, and that is going to do it. Dave Shields is going to win this match over Jeff Darran 2-0. Black-White mid-range does defeat Jund Monsters, and for our Legacy Open champion with Death and Taxes from Providence, he's off to a beautiful start right now.
Yeah, and